Okay.
This is the nature of the internet, where clutter is criticized and downvoted. Welcome to Seedy Location.
Okay, take two. So, as I tried to mention before, I placed the responsibility of maintaining the game and maintaining the order upon the person I was playing with, because I was doing all these dumb things. I was not playing the game to win. I was playing custom BIOTICS because it meant something to me, not necessarily to win the game. Of course, I was trying to win the game, but I was not playing the optimal deck. I was playing what made me feel good. And all along with the babysitting, maybe doing awkward things. Yes, it meant a lot to me, but it meant nothing to the other person. Being a responsible person means that you're competent enough to do something. For example, when you're participating in the World Championships in Netrunner, when you have an idea of who's going to perform very well because they performed well in other tournaments, so you can trust that they're going to do very well. They're competent in an area. That's the reason why you choose certain cards, meta-defining cards. So because I was playing custom BIOTICS, I was giving up that responsibility because I was playing a janky deck. And there's a bad side to responsibility because it can lead to corruption. For example, if we take a look at the world champion, the two-time world champion Dan Darginio, he played a degenerate deck, and this is a corruption of responsibility because he is supposed to play the best game he possibly can to win the game. That's the whole point. You play the best set of cards you can to win. But the problem is that the strategy he used was so effective that the game essentially broke down. Where I was abdicating my responsibility by not playing all the best cards, just playing that fancy one-off like unique card that no one ever plays because it's a shiny, and look how special I am, look how mean. The fancy one-off cards that no one else plays, look how shiny it is, look how unique I am. Dan Darginio, by playing this degenerate deck that was way too good because it broke the game, he was corrupting the game, and that's the other end of responsibility, where meaning can leave someone isolated. I don't know what you're doing. This makes no sense. I thought I was supposed to be doing this, but you're doing something completely different. Responsibility can be corrupted, and in his case made. It's like, what's the point of playing this game if this is the answer? You have to do this, and if anyone else who doesn't do this is not going to be good, they're just going to be left out of the game. There's no point of the game anymore. It's like, how can we play? And then you have to start banning stuff and fixing rules, and that's what happened. The middle of the road there is people like trying to use like power cards. For example, cards like Account Siphon, that used to be good. I mean, they're out of the game now. And Scorched Earth, these warp the game in various ways. But it was your responsibility as a player to be able to face them. Okay. I notice I do that when I get nervous. This makes me really nervous and tense. Right. Okay. So we've talked about level 3 there and responsibility and meaning, and let's go a bit deeper. This is where it gets a bit shaky for me because like I said, I've barely started to get a sense of responsibility now and look after myself and do stuff properly and just about. So I'm a bit shaky here, but here we go. Memory and ideas. Okay. when you have an idea, it can be completely it's not usually completely imaginary. Was like let's take a deck called Prepaid Kate, for example. One, if you use the card Sure Gamble, again that gets you 4 credits. And we used to have the card called Prepaid Voice Pad, and which gives you 1 credit off events. Now it used to be that you could not get, getting money each and every turn used to be really difficult until Prepaid Voice Pad, until you found a way to convert that money into cash, into usable credits. Because before we could only use it for one thing, and that narrowed its field of use. There was an order to it. It was like you could only do this much. But then when you combined it with hedge fund, with Sure Gamble, chaos. It's like, oh my god, now you can do all these other things with it. It's like, what's happening? He was on 1 credit before. Well, okay, now you can Sure Gamble from 1 credit, and that chain opened again, because before you need to have 5. You need to have like you need to have like 2 credits. Before you need to have 5 credits to do it, but now you can do it from 2, which is good, and it brings you all up to 9 credits, and that was amazing. And okay, yes, that borders on the side of corruption. That's a corruption of the card there for its intended purpose. But it was a good idea for how to use the card. And this changed everything. This was the beginning of the end for me. Because before that idea that you could do that, I mean, the runner, there was like windows, scoring windows. And there were things you could do. If the runner was low on credits, you felt safe to try and do your thing, score gens without it being disrupted. To people out there who don't play netrunner, it's like this. Imagine you have a treasure chest, right? And in the treasure chest you got your gold. And you think, okay, I've got the key. No one can get to this because it's safe. It's all in order. I've taken a responsible thing. I've looked after it. This means a lot to me. It's got all my stuff in there. Everything's great. It's good. And then someone comes along one day and tells you that, oh yeah, there's this thing called lockpicks. You can use it to pick the lock or anything without having the actual key. And it's like, and you're like, what? No, that's a bad idea. Like, how can you do that? And it's like, yeah, well, that's a new idea now. So now it's a thing. Oh, and it's like, oh, you've got a treasure chest there. You better check your gold, because, you better check whatever you got in there, because someone could unlock it and take it. And you're like, no, we can't, because it's got a key. I've got the key. There's no way that can happen. So one day you go and check the box, and it's like, it's empty. Chaos. Because here's the thing: how long has it been empty? You don't know. You thought things were one way, but it's actually another way, and that can just change your entire world. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. You thought things were one way, something happens, you don't know what's happened, you don't know yourself anymore. It's like, can I trust myself? I remember your memory was of this being secure, but now you can't trust your memory because this new ideas come along. And ideas can be good, ideas can be bad. It's always changing, it's always fluid. You don't know, you can imagine any kind of idea. And sometimes they can just change the world just by having the idea. But your memory is what you use is where the lessons are stored. So the lessons are learned, they're stories, they're acts. Now, stories played a good part in netrunner. It's like, never run last click. Why? Because every time you run last click, you can get a tag, suffer meat damage, anything can happen. So you never run last click. And again, it's like, to me, that might have been a new idea, but it's that set in memory. There's lore behind it. And it's like, oh, and you can ask them, why didn't you do this? Oh, well, because of this, this, and this. Because you can get tagged, you can get all these abilities if you run last click, and all these things can happen. and now it's part of your memory. It's not just an idea; it's a memory. It's there. It's forever. It's part of the culture now. And for me, I never really had memories because, well, I've got memories, duh, obviously, but I never had stories that were truly useful. For example, you go to a school, you learn lessons, and to me they were just ideas, and it's like, how does this idea help me? This idea doesn't help me, cast it away. It's not going into my memory. And it's like, well, where were these memories? Where were these tools that I needed to do my thing? Because I find that often the things we learn is very different from when you actually need to put them into practice. This is the same for top tier netrunner as well, because when I try to do the things in custom BIOTICS that other decks do, it doesn't work necessarily. I mean, you pick a thing and then you carry it over and over again to build up consistency. And this is not always the case. Let's take for example, early netrunner of core set. Wayland could win by gaining enough credits, C-source, Scorch. Good. Right, there was that, and it had nothing to do with main faction's ability. The main faction just helped you get money just a little bit faster. Any faction could do the C-source Scorched combo, right? And you had to figure a way around it, and that came in the next pack. There was no memory about it. It was just this idea. Oh, you can do this C-source Scorch thing, but that became part of the game. It's like, okay, you have to have a way to mitigate meat damage as part of your deck, and that became part of the memory, and that became a skill you use. A new player would never have this meat damage mitigation. They would just come into it thinking, oh, I just got to break the ice. It's like, oh, you can Scorch Earth kill me? And that's like, where did that come from? But as time went on, a new idea was introduced against runners, and that was things like emergency shutdown. You put all the stuff into your archives, and then you do whatever kind of combo you want to do from archives, playing Jackson Howard, and then putting the cards in the deck, and then you play. There's a card you play that plays the top 3 cards off your stack. So you do that combo, play those cards in any order, and you'd be able to perform your kill combo. So yeah, it's changed the game. And there's no memory of that. If that's gone now. But I never had that during life until this virus thing hit, and then I started learning about some ideas about how money works, about how business works, and about how stuff begins to work in general, and psychology stuff, and so I began to understand some stuff. So, and now I can build like a memory around it. It's like I've got to remember this, and like I said, the treasure chest could be empty. It could be a bad thing to remember. It could not be the truth, but it gives you an idea of what to do. And people need memories. And that's level 4. Most people, not everyone reaches level 4 where they have like stories and culture and everything. But if you want to apply it to yourself, that's things like religion. Again, may not be truth, maybe an empty chest, but it gives you a sense of order, gives you a sense of purpose, gives you some responsibility, gives you some meaning. Sometimes it's like all these things build up to something else, and without them, it doesn't give you a direction. I mean, if you're just stuck in the middle of these things and you're constantly changing your mind, constantly kind of ideas that you don't care about, you're not committing anything to memory, you're just going to be you're just going to be stuck, like doing your job, just taking care of the kids. You're just going to be that, and that's okay to be. Some people. Some people just want to be parents to their kids. They don't want to become. They don't want to have to, like, create past memories onto their kids. They don't want to have to pass all these things on. They just want to keep the kid alive. Off you go, and they don't want to pass on. They don't want to pass on memories. They don't want to pass on culture. They don't want to pass on new ideas. They just want to keep the kid alive, and that's fine. Or you just want to do your boring job. You just want to do your boring job well. You don't want to try and innovate the job with new ideas. You don't want to maintain the order and stop the corruption. And stop corruption, because you remember this corruption happened and the chest was empty. You have to protect against this, and those are things. And that's when in Netrunner, that's when the cycles start to happen. You start to cycle stuff out because these cards are broken. We don't like having to ban stuff, but we realize that certain combinations of cards that do certain things are bad and they have to be ruled out. My contribution to level 4, in fact, was Seedy location. Actually, you know, I have done some level 4 stuff, and that's where I talked about how bad recursion was. I went on and on and on about how recursion was, and I talked about the money problem, how runners have too much money right now. It used to be the case where runners would have to make choices, and those choices have consequences. But now they can just run every turn. You can't keep them out. As soon as they get the breakers down, the game's over, and the game degenerates. And I made seed location to try and stop that. In fact, that takes us into level 5. Objectivity versus relativity, and this is where your idea or your memory goes into action. You make it real. If someone has an idea, that's great, but until that idea is made real and it's relative to you, it doesn't matter. For example, this video, for example, this was in my head. Okay, I'm just some guy who plays custom BIOTICS, doesn't give a damn, and that might not matter to you, and that's fine. It's fine if it doesn't matter. It's fine if it's not relevant to you. But now that you're listening to it, there's an idea in your head, and that comes from me saying it to you and you from listening to it. That idea is now real. That idea is now objectively there, and that's all well and good. But here's the rub. Something is objective. Like, let's take number 2, for example. That's an objective thing. No matter what dimension you're in, 2 is always 2. If you've got 2 things, dun dun, 1, 2. If there's 2 of them, you can count them. And we can both agree on that. But if I take a math problem, for example, and I take if I take 9 plus blank equals 10, what goes in that blank space? You'd say 1, wouldn't you? That would make sense. Well, what if I told you wrong? What if I told you that the truth was actually 4? You'd say, no, it can't be 4. Well, then let's turn it around. Now it says 10 is equal to blank plus 6. See? Oh, you get it now. See, depending on which way you look at it, the objective truth can change, and that's relative. Depends on relative to where you stand on the problem. And this happens a lot. And this it can just change everything. For example, if you was to, first, some people say account siphon was broken, and I didn't mind account siphon by itself. Account Siphon by itself is a fine card. What made it broken was the recursion. Being account siphoned once, it's annoying. Twice is bad. 3 times, tragic. Oh, but it's finally over. But oh no, you can do it 6 more times, and that's too much. Once, twice, 3 times, fine. But if you can do it over and over again on command, and it costs 0, and you don't, it's like, it breaks the game. It is relatively bad, and it is far too good. And I had to, how do I stop this? It's like, the FFG, you need to do something about this. So and there's so many things wrong with the game. There's all these terrible cards like custom BIOTICS, and it's like, what are these cards going to do? You can't just, what are you going to do about this? This needs to be done. So I had to think of a way to make this real, and I played custom BIOTICS and to feel special, and I wanted to fix things, so I made Seed Location. And I was like, I'm like, it's like I was trying to fix myself really, because I wanted to be a game designer. I was like, this is broken. You can fix this. You've done this amazing thing here. How can I fix this? And I complained, and I harangued, and I drank and lots too much and complained, and eventually someone listened. And it wasn't necessarily because of me, but some part of my crazy madness seemed to have made sense to someone, and they did it. I made it real. And you can make stuff real as well. I designed a card called Seed Location Scan, and then Damon Stone made like a better designed version of it, which was nice. And I had all these design issues, and then he and the team and FFG fixed it, and it was amazing. And it's like, yeah, and it's like I felt like it wasn't necessarily because of me, but I felt like I had a part in it, even though, you know, objectively I didn't do anything. It was like it was them. It was still, but I felt I did something. And again, I'm not at that stage yet, because the kind of people that can inhabit level 4 or 5 are like gods. I mean, that's like, well, let's take Bill Gates for example. Again, before him, computers were just like a black screen. You type in commands, and there's like, you have to remember hundreds of commands to type in to get stuff done. But then he came along and came up with the idea of an icon. That was just an idea. But then he made it real. He took it, he programmed everything, he made it real, made it so you could do it. And then it was objectively there, and now that's how things are done. That's just the standards. It's the truth. And there's a difference between truth and fact. Yeah. 2 is a fact. You know, you can say there's 2 of something, that's an objective fact. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But 1 plus blank equals 10, you know, that's a truth depending on, 6 plus blank equals 10 is like a truth depending on where you look at it. And that's just a funny thing. I'm going to leave a link to my whole slide in there. I'm sorry I couldn't be more clear, and I'm sorry I'm still not couldn't be more clear about these last ones, but like I said, the first 2 levels, I'm there already. I'm good with that. But level 3 and more, I'm not strong there, because that's not where I'm at yet. But the kind of people that you can be if you can control the world at all these 5 levels. I mean, if you've got skill, if you're competent, if you can have the responsibility and the meaning, and then you have these ideas and you remember stuff, and you can put these together, and then you can go above that. You can take reality and shape it to your own will, and you can do amazing things. I mean, I hope I can get there one day. I'm trying to make a game. I'm trying to control netrunner. I'm trying to fix custom BIOTICS still. It's still what I'm trying to do. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you want to see my failed attempt at video, that is just full of meaning. That is just that is me shirking my responsibility and just being mean. This is me trying to be more responsible to you and trying to make it more clear to netrunner. Good luck.